He saw a suspect. She saw a lawsuit. In Texas, a veteran ICE agent named Brian Thompson decided to detain a woman based on nothing but the color of her skin and the car she drove. He demanded her papers. He ignored her pleas. He thought he was the law. But he did not realize that the woman sitting in that Mercedes was not just a citizen. She was one of the most ruthless constitutional lawyers in the state. What started as a routine traffic stop became a $15.4 million nightmare that would cost him his badge, his pension, and his pride. This is the story of how arrogance met justice and why you never ever judge a book by its cover. The slate-gray sky over Houston threatened to break open. The humidity was thick enough to wear, but inside the climate-controlled sanctuary of a luxury Mercedes S-Class, the air was crisp and smelled faintly of lavender and expensive leather. Behind the wheel sat Nicole Harris. She was a force of nature disguised as a civilian. She was a senior partner at Stein, Harris & Kelly, one of the most prestigious civil rights firms in Houston. Her resume was a weapon: Yale Law, top of her class, a clerkship with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and a reputation for shredding unprepared prosecutors in court. Today, however, she was not a shark in a suit. She was just a tired mother and wife driving home from a deposition in Brookshire. She adjusted the rear-view mirror, checking her appearance. Her natural hair was pulled back into an elegant professional bun. She wore a tailored beige blazer over a simple black blouse. She looked like exactly what she was, a professional at the top of her game. But Nicole knew that in certain parts of Texas, the Mercedes and the blazer did not matter as much as the melanin in her skin. She was currently humming along to a jazz playlist, her mind drifting to the dinner she had promised her husband, Michael. He was a heart surgeon at Texas Medical Center, and their schedules rarely aligned. Tonight was supposed to be date night. She whispered her estimated arrival to herself, glancing at the GPS. The traffic on I-10 was thinning out as she passed the exit for Brookshire. This stretch of highway was notorious. It was a major corridor for drug trafficking, which meant law enforcement was heavy: state troopers, local deputies, and increasingly federal agents. Nicole noticed a dark SUV sitting in the median about a mile ahead. It was blacked out with no visible markings from a distance, but the silhouette was unmistakable: a Chevrolet Tahoe, the chariot of choice for federal law enforcement. As she passed the vehicle, doing exactly the speed limit of 75 miles per hour, her eyes flicked to the side mirror. The Tahoe did not move immediately. She exhaled. "Just paranoia," she told herself. "You are a citizen. You are a lawyer. Relax." But the paranoia was a survival instinct. A short distance later, the Tahoe appeared in her rear-view mirror. It was closing the gap fast, too fast. Nicole moved to the right lane to let it pass. The Tahoe changed lanes with her. She moved back to the left. The Tahoe followed. Her stomach tightened. She was not speeding. Her tags were current. Her car was brand new. There was no probable cause. Then the lights flared. Blue and red strobes pierced the overcast afternoon gloom. "Damn it!" she hissed, hitting the steering wheel. She signaled, slowed down safely, and pulled onto the wide shoulder of the highway. Gravel crunched beneath the tires of her luxury sedan. She put the car in park, rolled down all four windows, a habit she taught her clients. Transparency is safety, and placed her hands at the 10 and 2 positions on the wheel. She took a deep breath, reciting the advice she gave to young black men in her community center workshops: comply, observe, document, survive. In the side mirror, she saw the door of the Tahoe open. A man stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a tactical vest over a dark uniform. He adjusted his belt as he walked, a gesture that screamed dominance. This was not a state trooper. The yellow lettering on the back of his vest became visible as he approached. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Nicole's brow furrowed. The agent walked slowly, touching the back of the trunk, a tactic to leave fingerprints and ensure the trunk was latched. He approached the passenger side window. He was a white male in his mid-40s with a buzz cut and mirrored sunglasses despite the lack of sun. His nameplate read Agent Thompson. Nicole turned her head slightly, but kept her hands on the wheel. "Good afternoon, officer. How can I help you?" Thompson did not answer immediately. He leaned in, chewing gum aggressively, his eyes scanning the pristine interior of the car. He looked at the leather seats, the expensive dashboard, and then finally his eyes landed on Nicole. The look was not one of professional inquiry. It was a look of disdain. It was a look Nicole had seen in courtrooms and boardrooms before, but never with a gun attached to it. "License and registration," Thompson said, his voice flat. "May I ask why I've been pulled over?" Nicole asked politely. "I was maintaining the speed limit. I did not ask for a speech," Thompson snapped. "I asked for license and registration now." Nicole paused. As a lawyer, she knew she had the right to know the reason for the stop, but as a black woman on the side of a highway with an armed federal agent, she knew the law would not protect her from a bullet. "I am reaching for my purse, which is on the passenger seat." She narrated her movements clearly. She moved one hand slowly, retrieved her wallet, and pulled out her Texas driver's license. She also pulled out her Texas state bar card, a subtle way to signal her profession without being confrontational. She handed them over. Thompson took the ID, looked at it, looked at her, and then laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Nicole Harris." He read the name like it was a joke. He did not even look at the bar card. He flipped the license over, bending the plastic slightly. "This car belongs to you?" "Yes, agent. It is registered in my name." "Expensive ride for someone like you," Thompson muttered almost to himself, but loud enough for her to hear. Nicole's jaw tightened. "I am sorry, what did you say?" Thompson leaned in closer, his breath smelling of stale coffee. "Step out of the vehicle, Agent Thompson," Nicole said, her voice firming up, the lawyer starting to bleed through. "I have provided my identification. I have complied with your request. Unless I am under arrest, I see no reason to exit my vehicle. You still have not told me why I was pulled over." Thompson took off his sunglasses. His eyes were cold, hard flint. "I'm conducting an immigration enforcement stop. You fit the profile of a suspect we are looking for, suspected of transporting undocumented aliens. Now step out of the car, or I will drag you out." Nicole's heart hammered against her ribs. Immigration enforcement. She was born in Dallas. She was a fourth-generation Texan. Her grandfather fought in Korea. "I am a United States citizen," Nicole stated clearly. "I'm also an attorney. You are profiling me, agent. This is a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights." Thompson smiled. It was a terrifying smile. "In my jurisdiction, attorney, I decide what your rights are. Get out." The rain finally began to fall, hitting the roof of the Mercedes like shrapnel. Nicole unbuckled her seatbelt. She knew the law. If a law enforcement officer orders you out of the vehicle, you must comply, even if the order is unlawful. You fight the battle in court, not on the side of the road. She opened the door and stepped out into the rain. The humidity instantly clung to her clothes. "Turn around." "Hands on the hood," Thompson barked. "Is this necessary?" Nicole asked, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and fear. "I am cooperating." "Hands on the hood," Thompson shouted, his hand dropping to the taser on his belt. Nicole turned and placed her hands on the warm metal of her car. The rain soaked her blazer immediately. Cars whizzed by on the highway, tires spraying water, nobody stopping. She felt exposed, humiliated. Thompson patted her down. It was rough, invasive, and lingered too long in areas that were unnecessary for a weapons check. Nicole memorized every touch, every second of it, filing it away for the lawsuit she was already drafting in her head. "Spread your legs," Thompson commanded, kicking her ankle apart with his heavy boot. Nicole stumbled but caught herself. "Agent Thompson," she said, her cheek pressed against the wet metal of her car. "I want your supervisor's name. I want your badge number documented. I'm informing you that I am legal counsel, and I am recording this interaction via my vehicle's dash cam." Thompson paused. He looked at the dash cam mounted on the windshield. He sneered and walked around to the driver's side door. He reached in and ripped the camera off the mount, the wire snapping. "Whoops," he said, tossing the camera onto the floorboard of her car. "Looks like equipment failure." "That is destruction of evidence," Nicole said, her voice dropping an octave. She was not scared anymore. The fear had burned away, replaced by a cold, calculating fury. She was no longer Nicole the mother. She was Nicole the litigator. "I do not see any evidence," Thompson said, walking back to her. "I see a woman with a suspicious ID. This license looks fake. The lamination is peeling. It is a valid Texas license issued by the DPS," Nicole said. "Run it. Check the system." "Systems are down," Thompson lied. She knew he was lying. "And since I cannot verify your identity, and you are driving a vehicle that fits the description of a mule car, I am detaining you under suspicion of being an undocumented alien." "You are out of your mind," Nicole turned her head to look at him. I am an American citizen. I have a court date tomorrow. If you detain me, you are kidnapping a federal officer of the court." Thompson laughed again. "You a lawyer?" "Honey, where I come from, girls like you are cleaning the courts, not arguing in them. You got a fake ID, a stolen car, and an attitude. That is 3 strikes." He grabbed her wrists and slapped a pair of plastic zip-tie cuffs on them. He pulled them tight, too tight. The plastic bit into her skin, cutting off circulation. "Agent, these are too tight," Nicole winced. "Comfort is not in the handbook," Thompson grunted. He grabbed her by the arm and marched her toward the Tahoe. As she was shoved toward the SUV, Nicole looked back at her Mercedes. It was abandoned on the shoulder, hazard lights flashing, door ajar. "What about my car?" she asked. "Impound," Thompson said. "We will search it for drugs later. If it is clean, which I doubt, maybe you will get it back at auction." He opened the back door of the Tahoe. It was not a standard police cruiser seat. It was a metal cage. It smelled of unwashed bodies, urine, and despair. "Get in," he shoved her. Nicole stumbled into the cage. The door slammed shut, sealing her in darkness. The tint on the windows was so dark she could not see out. She sat awkwardly, her hands bound behind her back, her expensive blazer ruining against the dirty metal seat. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath to steady her heart rate. Thompson climbed into the driver's seat. She could see him through the wire mesh partition. He picked up his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4 Alpha, 1 female in custody, suspected fake documents, transporting to the holding center. Copy 4 Alpha," the radio crackled back. Nicole leaned forward, pressing her face to the mesh. "Agent Thompson, I want you to remember this moment." Thompson looked at her in the rear-view mirror, his eyes narrowing. "Shut up back there. I want you to remember it," Nicole continued, her voice calm, icy, and terrifyingly articulate. "Because this is the last day you will ever enjoy being a police officer. You have just arrested Nicole Harris. My firm represents the NAACP, the ACLU, and the Governor's Special Task Force on Police Misconduct. By this time tomorrow, I will not just have your badge. I will have your house. I will have your pension. And I will make sure everyone in the state of Texas knows your name." Thompson hesitated. For a split second, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. The way she spoke, it was not the way a desperate suspect spoke. It was the way a judge spoke. But his ego was too big to turn back. He cranked up the radio, some loud talk show ranting about border security, to drown her out. "Save it for the judge, sweetie," Thompson yelled over the music. He put the Tahoe in drive and peeled out onto the highway, merging aggressively into traffic. Nicole sat back in the darkness. She didn't cry. She did not scream. She began to memorize. She memorized the song playing on the radio. She memorized the smell of his cologne. She memorized the serial number stamped on the metal partition in front of her. She was not a prisoner. She was a lawyer building a case, and Agent Brian Thompson had just handed her the biggest case of her life. They did not go to a police station. They went to a nondescript industrial building on the outskirts of Houston, a temporary ICE holding facility known among immigration lawyers as the Icebox. When the car stopped, Thompson got out and opened the back door. The rain was coming down harder now. He grabbed her arm and yanked her out. "Welcome to your new home," he sneered. Nicole looked up at the building. No windows, razor wire fences. She looked Thompson dead in the eye. "You have made a grave mistake, Agent," she said softly. "Move." He shoved her toward the intake door. Inside, the air conditioning was set to freezing. The fluorescent lights buzzed. Thompson marched her to the processing desk where another officer, a younger man named Officer Daniels, was eating a sandwich. "What you got?" "Thompson?" Daniels asked, mouth full. "Undocumented. Fake ID. Probable cause on the vehicle," Thompson said, tossing Nicole's license onto the counter. Daniels picked up the license. He wiped some mayo off his lip and squinted at it. He ran it through the scanner. Beep. Daniels' face went pale. He looked at the screen. He looked at Nicole. He looked back at the screen. Thompson?" Daniels said, his voice trembling. "What?" Thompson was busy unhooking his belt. "Did you read this pop-up?" Daniels asked. "Just book her." Thompson waved a hand. "Thompson, look at the screen." Daniels stood up, the sandwich forgotten. Thompson sighed, annoyed, and walked around the desk to look at the monitor. The screen did not show a criminal record. It did not show an expired visa. It showed a Level 4 security clearance alert. Subject, Harris Nicole. Status, U.S. citizen. Occupation, federal attorney. Note, Special Counsel to the Fifth Circuit. Below that, in bright red letters, do not detain without judicial warrant. Thompson stared at the screen. The blood drained from his face so fast it looked like he might faint. The silence in the room was deafening. Nicole stood there dripping wet, hands still zip-tied behind her back. She tilted her head. "Is there a problem, gentlemen?" she asked, "or are the systems still down?" The silence inside the processing center was heavier than the humid air outside. Officer Daniels stared at the screen, his mouth slightly agape, a piece of lettuce from his sandwich falling onto the desk unnoticed. Agent Thompson stood frozen. The arrogance that had fueled him on the highway, the swagger, the sneer, was evaporating, replaced by the cold, sinking realization that he had just stepped onto a landmine. "Miss Harris," Daniel stammered, his voice cracking. He looked at Thompson. "Thompson, cut her loose now." Thompson did not move. He was processing the impossible. A federal attorney in a luxury car. His bias had blinded him so completely that he could not reconcile the woman in the cage with the credentials on the screen. "I said, cut her loose," Daniel shouted, grabbing a pair of safety shears from the desk. He rushed around the counter, bypassing Thompson. "Do not touch me," Nicole said. Her voice was not loud, but it stopped Daniels in his tracks. "Do not touch me." "Ma'am, we need to get these cuffs off," Daniels pleaded, his hands shaking. "It is a mistake, a terrible mistake." "It is not a mistake," Nicole corrected him, her eyes locking onto Thompson. "It is a felony. It is kidnapping. It is assault under color of authority. And until a supervisor is present to witness the removal of these restraints and document my physical condition, nobody touches me." "I am the supervisor on shift," a voice boomed from the back office. A heavy-set man with graying hair and a coffee stain on his shirt stepped out. This was Director Simmons. He looked annoyed at the commotion until he saw the screen Daniels was pointing at frantically. Simmons read the alert. He looked at Nicole. He looked at Thompson. His face went from annoyed to horrified in seconds flat. "Agent Thompson," Simmons said, his voice dangerously low. "Did you verify this subject's identity before transport?" "I thought the system was down," Thompson lied, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. "She had a fake ID. The laminate was peeling. My ID," Nicole interjected, "is in Officer Daniels' hand. Does it look fake to you, Director?" Simmons snatched the ID from Daniels. It was pristine. He looked at Thompson with pure venom. "You brought a federal officer of the court into my facility without a warrant. You zip-tied a woman based on what? What is your probable cause?" "She was driving a suspicious vehicle," Thompson muttered, realizing how stupid it sounded. "A Mercedes," Nicole clarified. "I was driving a Mercedes." Then, Simmons closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. "Unlock her now. I want photos taken of my wrists first," Nicole demanded. "The circulation has been cut off. I have nerve damage. I need that documented for the lawsuit." Simmons nodded slowly. "Daniels, get the camera. Document everything. Thompson, get out of my sight. Go to the break room and stay there." As Thompson walked away, he cast one last look at Nicole. It was not hate anymore. It was fear. He knew deep down that his pension was gone. Daniels took the photos. Nicole's wrists were bruised, deep purple. The skin broken in places where the plastic had dug in. When they finally cut the ties, the rush of blood was agonizing. Nicole did not flinch. She rubbed her wrist slowly, never breaking eye contact with Simmons. "I want my phone," she said. "Of course," Simmons said, handing her the purse Thompson had confiscated. "Miss Harris, I want to apologize on behalf of the agency. This was a rogue action by an individual agent. We can resolve this quietly. I can have a car take you home right now." Nicole laughed. It was a sharp, dangerous sound. "Director, you seem to be under the impression that this is over. This has not even started." She pulled out her iPhone. "I'm not going home. I'm going to the hospital to have my injuries triaged, and then I'm going to my office." She dialed a number. It rang once. "Michael," she said, her voice finally softening just a fraction. "Nicole, where are you? You were supposed to be home." Her husband's voice came through filled with worry. "I have been arrested," she said. "What?" Michael shouted. Nicole could hear the background noise of the hospital cafeteria on his end. "Arrested for what?" "Driving while black," she said loud enough for the entire room to hear. "I am at the ICE holding facility on the outskirts. I need you to meet me at Methodist ER. I have nerve damage in my hands. I am leaving now, Michael said, the panic in his voice turning to steel. Nicole, are you safe? I am now, she said. Call Patrick. Tell him to wake up the associates. Tell him to file an emergency preservation order for all dash cam footage, body cam footage, and radio dispatch logs for Unit 4 Alpha. Tell him we are suing. She hung up. She looked at Simmons. I will take that ride to the hospital now. And Director, do not delete the booking log. The timestamps are my evidence. Simmons swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am. The harsh lights of the ER exam room hummed. Michael Harris, usually the one wearing the white coat, was pacing in his suit. He looked at his wife sitting on the exam table. Her blazer was ruined, water-stained, and wrinkled. Her hair was messy, but it was her wrists that made him tremble with rage. The doctor, a colleague of Michael's named Dr. Chen, finished wrapping Nicole's wrists in soft gauze. Deep tissue bruising, minor lacerations, and signs of compressive neuropathy, doctor. Chen recited for the recorder. I'm documenting ulnar nerve compression. You might have tingling in your fingers for some time, Nicole. Some time is fine, Nicole said, staring at her bandaged hands. It gives me time to write. Michael stopped pacing. He walked over and kissed her forehead, holding her gently. I'm going to kill him, he whispered. I swear to God, Nicole, I will find him. No, Nicole said, pulling back. Her eyes were dry. You are a surgeon, Michael. You fix hearts. I break people. Let me do my job. The door opened. Patrick Kelly, her law partner, walked in. He was a short, fiery Irishman with a red beard and a reputation for being the most aggressive litigator in Harris County. He was not wearing a suit. He was in a t-shirt and jeans, having rushed over from his daughter's recital. He looked at Nicole's wrists. He looked at Michael. He did not say hello. I have the preservation letter drafted, Patrick said. I have a private investigator heading to the impound lot to secure your car before they can accidentally lose it. Who was it? Agent Brian Thompson, Nicole said. Badge number 4922, Chevrolet Tahoe. He destroyed my dash cam. Patrick ripped it right off the windshield. Patrick's eyes widened. Destruction of evidence. Oh, that is beautiful. That is piercing qualified immunity right there. Did he admit it? He said, whoops, Nicole replied coldly. He claimed equipment failure. He is done, Patrick said, pacing the small room. We file a Bivens action. Violation of Fourth Amendment rights. Unreasonable search and seizure. Violation of Fifth Amendment. Deprivation of liberty without due process. False imprisonment. Assault and battery. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. I want to hit him personally, Nicole said. Not just the agency. I want him. We will name him individually. Patrick nodded. We will go after his assets. But the agency is on the hook for negligent hiring and supervision. If he has done this to me, Patrick, he has done it to others. I want his disciplinary file. We will get it, Patrick promised. I will have the complaint filed. We are asking for damages. Nicole looked at her bandaged wrists. She thought about the cage. She thought about the smell of the metal. She thought about the look in Thompson's eyes when he told her girls like her cleaned courts. 15.4 million, Nicole said. Patrick paused. That is high, Nicole. Even for this, it is 15.4 million, Nicole corrected. 10 million for the civil rights violation, 5 million punitive to make sure they never hire a cowboy like him again, and 400,000 for the car he had towed. The car is worth far less, Michael pointed out. It is the principle, Nicole said. Draft it. The conference room at Stein, Harris, and Kelly looked like a military command center. Boxes of files, laptops, and whiteboards covered every surface. Nicole sat at the head of the table, wearing fresh clothes, but with her wrists still bandaged visible. 3 junior associates were typing furiously. Update, Nicole barked. Complaint filed in federal district court, an associate named Megan said. Judge Bennett has been assigned. Bennett is fair. Nicole nodded. What about the car? Private investigator secured it, Patrick said, walking in with a coffee. And Nicole, you are going to love this. Thompson ripped the dash cam off, right? Yes, he threw it on the floorboard. Yes, Patrick smiled, a wolfish grin. The camera has an internal battery backup. It did not stop recording. It recorded the audio of him planting the justification. It recorded him laughing about your ID. And it recorded him calling dispatch. Nicole sat up straighter. Play it. Patrick connected his laptop to the main screen. The audio filled the room. Thud. Crackle. Thompson's voice. Whoops, equipment failure. Nicole's voice. That is destruction of evidence. Thompson, I do not see any evidence. Maybe you will get it back at auction. Then the sound of the door slamming, and then muddled but audible Thompson talking to himself as he walked back to his Tahoe. Think you can drive a Benz in my town? We will see how you like the cage. The room went silent. The racial animus was undeniable. It was not just a bad stop. It was a hate crime disguised as police work. That is the nail in the coffin, Nicole whispered. Release it to the court, Megan asked. To the press, Nicole said. Leak it to the Houston Chronicle and TMZ. By noon, I want Agent Thompson to be the most famous bigot in America. The fallout begins. Agent Brian Thompson was sitting at his kitchen table nursing a hangover. He had been suspended pending an internal investigation, but his union rep had told him to sit tight. It is her word against yours, the rep had said. Without video, it is just a he said, she said. You will get a slap on the wrist. He turned on the TV to catch the local news. The screen showed a photo of him, a photo from his own Facebook profile holding a fish he caught smiling. The headline below it read, Shocking audio of ICE agent arresting prominent attorney. Thompson dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor. The news anchor was grave. Breaking news. A federal civil rights lawsuit seeking $15.4 million has been filed against ICE agent Brian Thompson after a traffic stop involving Nicole Harris, a leading civil rights lawyer. Harris alleges she was profiled, assaulted, and kidnapped. And folks, the audio recording recovered from her vehicle is disturbing. They played the clip. Thompson listened to his own voice. He heard the slur. He heard the hate. His phone started ringing. It was his wife, then his captain, then a number he did not recognize. He stood up, his legs shaking. He looked out the window. A news van was already pulling up to the curb of his suburban house in Katy. The hunter had become the hunted, and Nicole Harris was just getting started. The wheels of justice usually grind slowly, but when a prominent federal attorney is shackled like a criminal, they spin with terrifying speed. Nicole Harris had rejected 3 settlement offers. The government offered $2 million, then $5 million, then $8 million, with a non-disclosure agreement attached. Nicole burned the offers. She wanted a trial. She wanted Agent Brian Thompson on the stand. The courtroom was packed. Law students, civil rights activists, and reporters filled the gallery. On the plaintiff's side, Nicole, flanked by Patrick Kelly and a team of 4 associates. She wore the same beige blazer she had been arrested in, now dry cleaned, but a symbolic armor. On the defense side sat Agent Thompson. He looked smaller. The swagger was gone. His suit was ill-fitting, and he had gained weight. He refused to look at the gallery. Next to him were 3 lawyers from the Department of Justice, looking exhausted. They knew they were defending the indefensible. Call your next witness, Judge Bennett ordered. Patrick Kelly stood up. The plaintiff calls Agent Brian Thompson. A murmur rippled through the room. Thompson stood up slowly and walked to the witness stand. He was sworn in. Patrick approached the stand holding a file. He did not yell. He did not pace. He was surgically precise. Agent Thompson, Patrick began. You stated in your police report, Exhibit A, that you pulled Miss Harris over because she was swerving and her vehicle fit the description of a car involved in human smuggling. Is that correct? Yes, Thompson said, his voice raspy. Can you describe the specific intelligence you had regarding a Mercedes S-Class being used as a mule car? We received bulletins. Cartels use luxury cars to blend in. I see. Patrick nodded. And can you explain why upon pulling her over, you did not ask for registration or insurance, but immediately commented on the expense of the vehicle relative to someone like her? I do not recall saying that exactly. We will play the tape again if you like, Patrick offered, reaching for the remote. No, Thompson said quickly. I was stressed. It was a high-pressure situation. Stressed? Patrick repeated. You were standing on the side of a road with a compliant woman. You had a gun. She had a purse. What exactly were you afraid of, Agent? Thompson stayed silent. Let us talk about the ID, Patrick continued. You claimed the lamination was peeling. We had a forensic document expert examine the ID. He found it pristine. You also claimed the systems were down. Patrick turned to the jury. We subpoenaed the server logs from the Department of Homeland Security. Were the systems down, Agent? Thompson looked at his lawyers. They stared at the table. I thought they were. The logs show you did not even try to run her name until you were at the processing center, Patrick said, his voice rising. You zip-tied a woman, threw her in a cage, and drove her without checking who she was. Why? Thompson wiped sweat from his upper lip. I made a judgment call. No, Patrick corrected him. You made an assumption. You saw a black woman in a car you could not afford, and you decided she stole it. You decided she did not belong. You decided you were the law. Patrick leaned in close. Tell the court, agent, when you destroyed the dash cam, did you think you were protecting the law or protecting yourself? Objection, the DOJ lawyer shouted. Withdrawn, Patrick smiled. No further questions. But the real blow came from the surprise witness. Nicole's team had dug deep. They found Victor Morales, a construction foreman from San Antonio. Victor took the stand. He was nervous. Mr. Morales, Nicole asked him gently, have you met Agent Thompson before? Yes, ma'am, Victor said. He pulled over my work truck. He tore the seats apart looking for drugs. He did not find any. He took my wallet. He took $400 cash from my payday. Did he log that cash into evidence? Nicole asked. No, ma'am. He told me it was a processing fee for not deporting me. I was born in El Paso. The courtroom gasped. The jury, a diverse mix of Texans, looked at Thompson with pure disgust. The rogue mistake defense crumbled. This was not a mistake. It was a pattern of predation. The jury deliberated and returned with a verdict. Have you reached a verdict? Judge Bennett asked. We have, Your Honor, the jury foreman said. Nicole held Michael's hand under the table. Her knuckles were white. In the matter of Harris versus Thompson et al., we find for the plaintiff on all counts. Nicole let out a breath she felt she had been holding. We award compensatory damages in the amount of $2.4 million for lost wages, medical expenses, and emotional distress. We further award punitive damages against the Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $10 million for negligent supervision. And the foreman looked directly at Thompson. We award punitive damages against Brian Thompson personally in the amount of $3 million. Thompson's head snapped back as if he had been punched. $3 million. He did not have $3 million. He did not have $300,000. This meant bankruptcy. This meant ruin. The gavel banged. So ordered. Nicole hugged Patrick. She hugged Michael. She turned to look at Thompson. He was sitting alone. His lawyers were already packing up, distancing themselves from the radioactive client. But as the courtroom cleared, the real twist unfolded. As Thompson stood up to leave, the back doors of the courtroom swung open. 4 men in suits walked in. They were not lawyers. They wore windbreakers with 3 letters on the back. FBI. They walked straight past Nicole and headed for the defense table. Brian Thompson? The lead FBI agent asked. Yeah, Thompson said, dazed. I'm Special Agent Cole with the Civil Rights Division. You are under arrest. What? I just lost the lawsuit? Thompson shouted. You cannot do this. This is not civil, Brian, Agent Cole said, pulling out a pair of steel handcuffs. A federal grand jury just returned a true bill. Indictment for deprivation of rights under color of law, witness tampering, and theft of government property regarding the Morales incident. The room went silent. The civil trial had just been the appetizer. The criminal charges were the main course. Turn around, Cole ordered. Thompson looked at the DOJ lawyers. Do something. The lead DOJ lawyer looked at him and shrugged. We represent the government, Mr. Thompson. You are no longer employed by the government as of now. You are on your own. Click, click. Thompson was handcuffed in the exact spot where he had just lost his fortune. Nicole watched from the aisle. She did not smile. She did not gloat. She just watched justice work. As they marched Thompson out, he had to walk past her. He stopped for a second. His eyes were red, rimmed with tears of self-pity. You ruined my life, he hissed at her. Nicole adjusted her blazer. She looked him up and down, just like he had done to her on the roadside. No, Brian, she said, her voice calm and powerful. You ruined it the moment you thought your badge made you better than the Constitution. I just handed you the bill. Let us go. The FBI agent shoved him forward. As Thompson was led away, the press was waiting in the hallway. The cameras flashed, capturing the image of the former bully in cuffs, head hung low. Nicole walked out behind him. The reporters swarmed her. Miss Harris, how do you feel? Is this justice? Nicole stepped up to the microphones. The rain had stopped. The Texas sun was breaking through the clouds. This is accountability, Nicole said. Justice would be never having to fear the people who are sworn to protect us. But today is a start. The $15.4 million verdict was upheld on appeal. The government paid their share, which Nicole used to start the Know Your Rights Legal Defense Fund for low-income Texans. Brian Thompson, however, faced a darker reality. He was fired, stripping him of his pension just before he was fully vested. Because of the intentional tort ruling, his police union insurance refused to cover the $3 million personal judgment. Nicole's firm placed a lien on everything he owned. His house foreclosed, his truck seized. His wife filed for divorce after the criminal indictment, taking full custody of their kids and moving to Oklahoma to escape the shame. But the hardest hit came later. Thompson was convicted on the criminal charges. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Because he was law enforcement, he could not be in the general population. He was placed in protective custody, which is essentially solitary confinement. For hours a day, he sits in a cage not much bigger than the back of his Tahoe. And the irony, the prison he was sent to is a private facility in South Texas. The warden there is a man named Tyrone Harris, Nicole's younger brother. He ensures Thompson follows every rule by the book. No shortcuts, no special treatment. Every time Thompson complains about the food or the heat, the guards just look at him and say, "File a complaint. I'm sure the system will work it out." The Texas sun was no longer a source of warmth. It was an oppressive weight that baked the concrete walls of the federal prison until the air inside shimmered. Inmate number 8942079 sat on the edge of his bunk. To the world, he was a number. To himself, he was still Agent Brian Thompson, just temporarily embarrassed. But the mirror bolted to the wall told a different story. The broad shoulders had slumped, the buzz cut was grown out and patchy. The arrogance that had filled the tactical vest was gone, replaced by the hollow-eyed stare of a man living in a small box. Because of his background in law enforcement, Thompson was in the Special Housing Unit, protective custody. It sounded safe, but it was torture, solitary confinement. The only time out was spent in a slightly larger cage in the yard, alone, staring at the sky through chain-link fencing. He heard the heavy clank of the mail cart rolling down the tier. "Chow time." "No mail," a guard shouted. The slot in his steel door slid open. A single yellow envelope was shoved through. It landed on the concrete floor with a soft slap. Thompson picked it up. He recognized the return address. It was his home address in Katy. His heart jumped. Finally. "Jennifer is writing." He tore it open. It was not a letter. It was a legal document. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Thompson read the first paragraph, his hands shaking. Irreconcilable differences, full custody of the minor children, request for name change. She was not just leaving him, she was erasing him. She was changing the kids' last names back to her maiden name. She did not want them growing up with the name Thompson, a name that was now synonymous with racism and police brutality on every search engine in the world. He slid down the wall, clutching the papers. He had lost the badge. He had lost the pension. He had lost the house. And now he had lost the only people who might have visited him. "Tough break, 079. A voice came from the other side of the door. It was the tier guard, Officer Perez. "I need to make a call," Thompson croaked. "I need to call my lawyer. You used your phone time yesterday to call the press, remember?" Perez said, indifferent. "You are done for the week. This is an emergency." "My wife is leaving me," Thompson shouted, slamming his hand against the door. "Follow the protocol, inmate," Perez said, walking away. "File a request form." The irony tasted like ash in his mouth. Protocol, forms, rules. The very things he had ignored on the roadside were now the walls of his existence. Higgins was handcuffed and escorted out of the special housing unit. He thought he was going to the medical bay. Instead, he was marched through the administrative wing, the air conditioning feeling like a luxury he did not deserve. They stopped at a heavy oak door with a brass plaque. "Warden M. Harris." Thompson frowned. Harris, common name. Just a coincidence. The guard shoved him into a chair in front of the large mahogany desk. The office was decorated with Texas state flags and framed degrees. The chair swiveled around. The warden was a tall black man, impeccable in a gray suit. He had the same sharp jawline, the same piercing intellect in his eyes as Nicole. Thompson froze. He knew that face. He had seen it on the news reports during the trial, standing next to Nicole. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," Warden Tyrone Harris said, his voice smooth and deep. "You," Thompson whispered. "You are her brother." "I am," Tyrone said pleasantly. "Nicole sends her regards. She is currently in D.C. advising the Senate on the new Police Accountability Act. She is very busy." Thompson tried to summon some of his old bluster. "Is this why I am here? You brought me here to gloat. That is an ethics violation. I will report you to the Bureau of Prisons." Tyrone laughed. It was a genuine, hearty laugh. "Report me? Mr. Thompson, I did not bring you here to gloat. I brought you here to approve your work assignment." He slid a piece of paper across the desk. "Work assignment?" Thompson looked at it. "I'm in protective custody. I cannot work." "We have a special detail for special housing unit inmates," Tyrone explained. "It is safe, isolated, but necessary." Thompson read the assignment. "Latrine sanitation and biohazard cleanup. You want me to clean toilets?" Thompson scoffed. "I was a federal agent, and now you are an inmate convicted of a felony," Tyrone said, his voice hardening. "In this facility, everyone contributes. You used to complain about people like us cleaning courts, did not you? My sister mentioned that." Thompson went pale. "Well," Tyrone clasped his hands, "it seems fitting. You will be cleaning the staff restrooms. You will ensure they are spotless for the officers who replaced you. You start at the beginning of your shift." Thompson stared at him. "This is retaliation." "No," Tyrone leaned forward, his eyes cold steel. "This is the system you loved so much when you were the boot. Now you are the neck. Welcome to the other side, Brian." Tyrone hit a buzzer on his desk. "Guard, take him back." As Thompson was dragged out shouting about his rights, Tyrone picked up his phone. He dialed a number. "Hey, Nicole," Tyrone said. "Yeah, he got the assignment. No, he did not take it well. You were right. He has not changed. But he will." Nicole Harris walked through the glass doors of her new firm. It was no longer just a partnership. It was a movement. The waiting room was full, not just of wealthy clients, but of people who had been ignored, marginalized, and mistreated. She walked past a framed newspaper clipping in the hallway. It was not the headline about her $15.4 million win. It was a small photo of a young Hispanic man, Victor Morales, the witness from her trial. After the trial, Nicole had taken Victor's case pro bono. She had sued the county for the theft of his wages. She won him $50,000. But more importantly, she had helped him get his contractor's license restored. Nicole entered her office and sat down. She looked out the window at the Houston skyline. Her wrist still tingled sometimes when it rained. The nerve damage from the zip ties never fully healed. It was a permanent reminder. She opened her laptop. She had an email from a young law student at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Subject: "Thank you. Dear Miss Harris, I was going to drop out. I thought the system was too broken to fix. Then I saw the video of you standing up to Agent Thompson. I saw you refuse to be a victim. I'm graduating next month. I want to fight like you." Nicole smiled. She typed a reply. "Do not fight like me. Fight like you. The world needs your voice." She hit send. She was not just a lawyer anymore. She was a lighthouse. And while Agent Brian Thompson was scrubbing tiles in a lonely prison in West Texas, Nicole Harris was building a future where men like him would never have the power to turn off the light again. Nicole Harris's story is not just a victory for one lawyer. It is a warning shot to anyone who thinks a badge gives them the right to bully. Brian Thompson lost his freedom, his fortune, and his family because he underestimated the power of the very laws he was sworn to uphold. It is a brutal reminder that in the age of cameras and consequences, karma does not just knock, it kicks the door down. If this story of cold, hard justice fired you up, hit that like button. It helps us tell more true stories of the underdog fighting back. Share this video with your friends. You never know who needs to know their rights. And if you want to see more karma hitting back, subscribe and turn on notifications. Remember, know your rights, record everything, and never let anyone extinguish your light. In the shadow of that rain-soaked Texas highway, where a proud federal agent thought he could crush a black woman's dignity with nothing more than a badge and a sneer, we witness a truth that cuts straight to the heart. Never, ever underestimate the quiet power of knowing who you are and what you stand for. Nicole Harris wasn't just driving home to her husband and kids that day. She was carrying generations of resilience in her bones, the kind that turns fear into fuel and humiliation into history. When Agent Brian Thompson zip-tied her wrists and shoved her into that metal cage, he didn't see a Yale-educated lawyer, a mother, a force for justice. He saw only the color of her skin and the shine of her Mercedes. But in that moment of raw vulnerability, with rain soaking her blazer and her heart pounding, Nicole chose courage over silence. She memorized every cruel word, every illegal touch, every lie. She didn't break. She built a case that would dismantle his entire world. That is the lesson that still brings tears to my eyes every time I retell it. True power doesn't come from a uniform or a gun. It comes from refusing to let anyone else define your worth. Prejudice may feel invincible in the moment, but it always crumbles when met with unshakable dignity and the law on your side. Nicole's story reminds us that every act of injustice leaves a scar, yet those scars can light the way for others. She turned her pain into a legal defense fund that now protects thousands of everyday Texans who might otherwise feel powerless. Her nerve damage never fully healed, but neither did her determination to make sure no one else has to endure what she did. If this story moved you, if it stirred something deep in your chest about standing tall when the world tries to break you, drop a comment below and tell me, what's one time you refused to be defined by someone else's bias? Your story might be the next spark of hope for someone watching. And if you believe in justice that hits back harder than hate, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're in this fight together. Know your rights, record everything, and never let anyone dim your light. See you in the next one.